Now I still have to deal with the gap on the door. And since I played enough with the shims on the body already, I couldn't do anything else but shape a little bit the door. I tried to close the gap in the top end by adding shims under the trunk, and that helped a little, but not enough. I have more than ½ inch of shims under the trunk, so I can't add any more because the frame is going to be exposed under the trunk. I mean, when you look at the car from behind, you would see the frame, so I couldn't do anything anymore. I also noticed that the door has been reshaped already. Somebody trimmed a lot in the top end, so that also helps for the gap to be much bigger than what it is supposed to be. So I decided that I would add a little bit with weld in the top end of the door and trim a little bit the lower end. So as I was expecting, the 3 layers of sheet metal in the lower end of the door started to open apart where I ground, so I had to weld them back together, and then I started adding to the top end of the door by welding to the edge. That's a slow process, but it works. Couple of times I ground the edge and I closed the door to check how close was I to the rear fender. I kept adding where I needed to. I went over a little bit so I can grind at the end and make one straight continuous line. So when I had enough material added, I put masking tape to mark up to where I wanted it to be ground, and then I ground to this line. I'm pretty satisfied with this result, so I left it like that, and later I'm gonna just smoothen it with Bond. And it's time for the hood. You remember how I told you the hood doesn't have curve right here, because it aligns very well here with the fender, aligns very well over there with the fender, but here in the middle there is a more than 1/4 inch difference of the height between the hood and the fender. And on the other side it's a little bit lower here, but in the meantime the hood is a little bit higher here, so I'll have to figure out a way to deal with that. So this template matches the curve of the fender, and I also tested it with the other side. It matches the same way the fender. So just to double check, to make sure I have the same result with the template as with the, hold on, this is a little bit low here. Okay, now it's even, and there it's even, but here in the middle You see I have 1/4 inch difference. Excuse me. For this side, to be honest, I don't know, for me that looks much easier to deal with. This is the side that I have problems with. But just to make sure what I do is right, I wanted to compare the template with the old hood. That's the old one that came out of the car, but unfortunately you see its condition is not salvageable, or at least it's not worth the labor to salvage it. This one matches the curve of the fender, as I expected. Let me check the other side too. And this side too. It matches exactly the shape of the fender, so obviously the problem is in this hood, not in the fenders or anything else. And just to triple check, I'm gonna check also with the hood of this car, and I'm gonna show you in a separate video why it is in this condition. We have the hood over there, so I'm gonna compare the template with it. Here it matches perfectly. This one matches perfectly the shape too. So I got an idea. I took the hood off and I put it over there on the bench. It's sitting right now on some pieces of 2x4. These are just supports here. But here my idea is to make some notches here on this lip, and then with some clamps I'm gonna try to push it down and then weld it. I know the lip is not the only obstacle here. The biggest obstacle is this support here. But anyways, I'm gonna try first the thing with the notches, and if it doesn't work, then it is what it is. We'll have to find another hood. Oops, this is where I realized that I went too far. Obviously I was overestimating the stiffness of the hood, and with the clamps I pushed so much that I bent it in the other direction. So what I had to do was to cut the notches I just welded again, and then straighten it a little bit, and then weld it in the proper angle. So actually I was totally wrong. That bends so easy that I can do it with my bare hands. I didn't expect that, so I overdid it with the clamps, and now I can figure out that where the notches are, I can really bend it with my bare hands. I'll bring you closer so you can see. So if you can see, I can literally bend the hood with my bare hands here. You see? So what I'm gonna start doing now is with the template, I'm gonna follow. So now I know that up to here these are good, so I'm gonna weld these, and then from here I'm gonna keep going that way, but very carefully, because I didn't want to overdo it again. Almost after cutting and welding every notch, I was checking with the template to make sure I'm still in the right direction. And slowly I was getting there. Okay, I think I got it where I wanted it to be. I don't know if you can see here, but I don't want to turn it around before I weld it well. But now the template and the hood match pretty close. So now I'm just gonna weld it well. It doesn't move anymore, because now all these are just stacked. Now I'm gonna weld them, I'm gonna grind them. It was a little tricky to weld it inside too, but I wanted it to look nice and to be strong, so I had to weld it. And then I ground it. And again, it was much easier to grind outside than inside. Actually, I couldn't even use the angle grinder here, so I had to use my little cutting wheel here and pretend I was dentist. Then I checked one more time before I put it on the car, because, you know, something could have moved, but it looked okay. Well, I think it worked, but it is much better.